Does about this time of morning.
That's right.
There you have it. It is 7:41 right now, and our good friend Kim Baer in studio with us. Hello, how are you?
Good morning.
Good morning.
All right, we're going to talk about something this morning, a little bit of a touchy subject in some folks' minds, but
Yes.
something that really needs to be discussed.
Yes, yes. Well, I thought, so it's December. We've got January coming just right around the corner. So now's the time for New Year's resolutions. So I thought we'd talk about why do you really need a will? And I thought it would be helpful to give, some scenarios that people might not have thought about. And so why don't we start off with, so let's assume that you and I are married, and
We've been married about 11 times.
Yes, exactly, and
the past
divorced
year.
several times.
Yeah,
Yes,
okay.
yes. And today, we're going to get divorced again today.
Okay.
So, so we're married, and we have Jackie, our beautiful daughter.
Yay.
Yes, but Jackie is a 20-something who is not good with money. And you and I then are both, we don't have a will, and we're both killed tragically in a car accident. Everything we own is going to go to Jackie if there's no will. And if Jackie is not good with money, chances are, had somebody asked us before we were killed, would we just give Jackie a checkbook with $100,000 or $200,000, we would have said, oh, no, 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 no. So that's the problem. If you don't have a will, and if you have children who are not good with money, or you have a spouse who's not good with money, when you die, there's no trust in place, there's no strings in place.
So it's just like, here it is.
Here it is. Here
Okay.
it is. Hopefully you'll do the right thing.
Right.
So a lot of times people don't think about that. Or they'll think, okay, I've got 3 kids, but maybe they've got one child that has struggled with money or struggled with some alcohol or some drug issues. And so you really want to be thinking about, okay, if I died tomorrow and I didn't have a will and my children inherited everything I had, are they going to be okay? And if you think they are, then maybe you don't need a will. But that's just one of the things to kind of think about.
So what can the will do in a case like this?
So in that type of situation, what we'd want to do is we'd want to do a will with a trust. And what we'd want to do is, let's say you have a brother or I have a sister that we think would be good at managing money. So what we'd do is everything we have would go into the trust, and they would manage the money for Jackie until a time that they felt that she was good enough to stand on her own 2 feet.
Like
maybe,
she's about 75 or
yeah,
something?
when she's 75, she could have the money.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Perfect.
Now, let's say that you and I are married, and again, we have Jackie as our daughter, but this time she's, 8 years old. And you and I get divorced. And then tragically, I am killed in a car accident. Everything that I just fought you for to get in my bucket, because now I'm divorced, is going to go, if I die with no will, it's going to go to Jackie. And Jackie is a minor. So who's going to control all that money?
Dad.
You.
It would naturally go to Dad. Okay.
Exactly. So I just got through spending a lot of money, a nasty divorce, fighting you, to only now have everything basically go back to you. So that's a concern as well. Now, if you're good with money and you're actually a great dad, maybe that's not a problem. But most people, when I finish a divorce for them, the very next thing I say to them is, let's look at a will. Because of the fact, especially if you've got young kids.
Right.
So. Another thing to think about is, let's say that you and I are married, but it's a second marriage, and Jackie is your daughter from a previous marriage, so I'm stepmom. Now, if you pass away, and there's no will, there's a question about what I get and what she gets, because in Iowa, our law tries to protect the daughter as well as the spouse. So a lot of people, I think, assume that if you and I are married, even if it's a second marriage, if something happens to one of us, it's just going to go to you or it's going to go to me.
Right.
That's not the case.
Really?
Yes, if you have a child from another marriage.
I didn't realize that.
Exactly. So what we want to do is we want to kind of talk about, okay, do you want to take care of me? Do I want to take care of you? Do we want to make sure that there's something that's carved out for your kids or for my kids? And so again, all of those things can be addressed with a will, but if you die without a will, then it's going to be governed by the law, and it very well may be that it's not going to be what you wanted.
And I can see this being a touchy subject if you are dealing with step parents, maybe step siblings. Is there a suggestion of how to maybe bring it up?
I will tell you that, frankly, I tell my clients all the time, what you and I decide, can either be shared with the kids or not shared with the kids. That's up, if we think it's going to cause World War III, well, then maybe we should just wait.
Leave it in an envelope?
Just leave it in an envelope, and when we're dead, you guys can fight about it. Now, the better thing, I think, is to at least let whoever the child is, if a child's going to be an executor or a child's going to be a trustee, is kind of give them a heads up, and just say, hey, we've made some provisions about what we think is best, kind of sit everybody down. You don't necessarily have to share the will with them, but maybe give them a heads up so that people aren't fighting down the
here's
road.
what we're going to do. Now,
Exactly.
in the unlikely case, or actually in case something like this does happen, and people don't like what the will says, is there any way that they could change what the will says?
Well, if they don't like what the will says and they really think it's unfair, they certainly have the right to challenge it, which is all the more reason, so just last month I was doing a will where parents had a concern. They have 3 adult children, and one of them has a drug problem. And so they wanted to make sure that they were not really leaving anything to that child, and they were going to skip the generation and leave everything to that child's children. So in other words, their grandchildren.
Right.
And so we had to make sure that we were really clear in the will, here's what we're doing and here's why we're doing it. Because what happens is people will come in and challenge the will and say that was a typo or that was a mistake. My mom and dad would never have done that.
Right.
Well, if it's clear in the will that, yeah, mom and dad thought about it and this is why they did it.
And the reason they're doing this is because of this.
Exactly. And another thing is you may think, okay, you know what, if you and I died, we're fine with everything going to Jackie, and so we probably don't need a will, we don't think. But maybe I've got some heirloom things or some antiques or something that is really special to my family that maybe I don't want to leave to Jackie, to my daughter. Maybe they're supposed to go to my sister or they're supposed to go to my niece.
Okay.
Yeah, so we have a piece of paper that gets attached to the will that you can handwrite out what is going where, and you can change your mind. So maybe I'm going to leave the diamond ring to Jackie, and then next week I'm mad at Jackie. I can rip it up.
And you can just write a new one?
And I can write a new one. And what
Now,
happens is
who keeps a copy of this?
you keep it with your will. So what
All right.
happens, and we tell people, when you die, somebody's going to go find the will, and whatever that last list is that's with the will, and I'm not joking. I have seen wills where there's been 80 scratch, redo.
Really? I never heard of this.
I wouldn't encourage that, but that gives you an option of being able to change it without going back to the attorney.
All right. And what's the average cost of setting up a will?
It's really not very expensive. It starts at $400 for a basic will, and if you have 2 people, a husband and a wife, there's a discount for that. So most lawyers will draft a will for not very much money.
All right, and well worth the money.
Yeah, absolutely. Gives you peace of mind. You don't have to worry about it. It's a great New Year's resolution.
I like the piece of paper at the back, and that way, in case anybody gets mad at you, say, guess what? Hang on just a second here before I leave.
I just want to so literally it gives new meaning to you're out of the will.
That is awesome. I never realized that. All right, now people want to get more information on this. Obviously, it's complicated.
Yeah.
You can make some sense out of this. People want to get a hold of you. What's the
Yeah,
easiest
just give
way?
me a call at 515-INJURED. We're right across the street from Vets Auditorium, and it's a free consultation.
Okay.
Perfect. Wonderful.
Thank you
Great.
very
Thank you
much.
so much.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, it's 10 minutes before 8 o'clock right now. And we'll be back, and something really cool to show you. We had a chance to give you a sneak of it yesterday, but we'll show you the tribute, the light display in California for fallen officers. That's coming up next.